welcome to Entertainment Talk TV. It's Entertainment Talk's podcast for the television that we choose to talk about. I'm your host Matthew. Joining me today, co-host, is Gray. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Matt. Thank you for inviting me on. I'm looking forward to having a chat today about our TV.
Yeah, me too. It's good to have you back on. I thought I'd message you and try to just get a bit of TV catch up with you, sort of thing.
Always
See what
happy to
we've
do that.
both been watching. I don't know when we did the last. I think you were on the last TV talk because I did the draft thing for it yesterday, and that was the last post that was on there. But anyway, other than all of that, what shows would you like to talk about today?
I'm gonna talk about some cheesy things, some things like we
I am
shouldn't
as
call them
well.
guilty pleasures as well. We'll just talk about things that I'm enjoying watching, and then a couple of serious ones that I've been getting into. I haven't quite finished, but I just want to talk about what I think of the first couple of episodes. So I think I might start with my cheesy nostalgia, if that's all right with you, Matt.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I was younger and I was growing up, our family got Sky, and I was really into Nickelodeon. And
Mhm.
around that time, I used to love watching all the Nickelodeon shows, and it would have been like the original Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Keenan and Kel and things like that. And then Netflix just a few weeks ago re-released Sister Sister back onto the streaming platform, and it was just this iconic like show that I remember used to watching after school, and it was very cheesy. It's very American comedy of its time in the 90s, but it really is cheers me up. It's that thing I'm putting on in the background when I'm cooking or doing a bit of stuff around the house. We've obviously into our second lockdown, and it's sort of like that smiling 90s humor, very 90s, very American. It's a really strong black US sitcom as well, and I think actually this is a sort of thing that sort of taught me when I was younger to be sort of the person I am now, very open and accepting and really aware of the wider world. And yeah, I'm really enjoying that. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it. I did tweet about it a couple of times when it got released, Matt. Have you ever heard of Sister?
It kind of rings a bell. I can't think of what it actually is though. Um,
So the story is that these two twin girls were separated at birth, and they're adopted by two different families, and then they bump into each other in a shopping mall when they're 14. And then the mum of one girl moves in with the dad of the other girl so they can be together as they grow up. And
huh.
it's just got a really nice dynamic. And the twins are played by Tia and Tamara Mowry, who are have gone on to do reality stuff and that in America. And yeah, it's just a feel-good sitcom. If anyone has seen it on Netflix, pop up, watch a couple of episodes, see what you think. It might just be too cheesy, you might turn it off, but it cheers me.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, nostalgia's always good, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
I've talked recently about. I know it's a bit different, like '90s video games that have been getting remastered over the last couple of years, and not just '90s games, but games from the past and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's always as long as whatever it is that you return to has either got like good memories or if something's been remastered or whatever. As long as it comes across, in the best way it can.
Yeah.
But yeah, nostalgia certainly a powerful thing. So
I know a lot of people say it with friends, and they challenge some of the plot lines or narratives because we're in a far progressed world 20 years later.
hmm
And a lot of people use this saying, oh, it's of its time, we accept it because of its time. And I do find myself sitting there sometimes, they'll do a comment or they'll make a storyline about a section of society that would have been, that was mocked back in those times, and we wouldn't do that now.
hmm
And I do sometimes cringe a little, or I sit there and go, well, that wouldn't sit well. But you've got to remember it's of its time. And I know some programs are starting to put warnings out before they show them if they're from a later time periods, saying depictions of um, sort of like views
Yeah,
are
yeah.
reflective of the time that these were made. So please um, watch with caution. And I think that's a really good thing rather than trying to edit them out.
Mm.
As long as we recognise that it was made in that time. I know there's some jokes in Sister Sister about a a guy being quite feminine, or another man dressing in drag. And RuPaul makes an appearance. I forgot about it. Season two,
Huh.
RuPaul drops in and makes an appearance. And I suppose it was sort of paving the way for a more accepting world, but they do have their very strict gender stereotypes and how a girl should behave and how a boy should behave. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's just, that's what I've got.
I suppose the thing with that is though, if you're gonna watch something that was well made in the past, even if it was a year ago or 20 years ago, like something like Friends from 1994, it's simply the case that yeah, it's not gonna fit with today's standards or politics or the way of the world, because unless you go back and rewrite Friends or whatever it is, it's gonna have the 94 sort of culture to it because
Mm.
that's when it was written. So I did find that quite bizarre. I think it was last year maybe. I think Friends was leaving Netflix in the US or going somewhere else or something like that. And there was a few articles that came out about like, oh, Friends isn't politically correct for 2019. Well, I was like, well, yeah, of course, because it was written in 94.
Yeah.
So you can't write for 2020 or 2019 politics if you're writing in 94. That time doesn't work that way, you know. So, but yeah, I get what you mean about doing different warnings and things like that. So, kind of makes sense with the way some things are in the world today. So cool. You enjoying that though? That you've been
Yeah,
watching?
yeah. Again, it's not like a serious thing. It's something I have just on in the background.
Right.
Um, I'll go to another guilty one, but something I binged really quickly. I don't know why. I just got a little bit obsessed with it. It was this program on Channel 4, and so I got it on all four, called Five Guys a Week. And I'm not sure if you've heard the concept of this.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's always a female, on the Monday, or the first day, invites five guys to come and live with her, and they all become her, like she's dating them all, and she basically has to vote them off until she chooses the one she'd like to continue dating. And I was at a friend's house and they put it on, and I just was like, I absorbed it, and I was like, I want to watch more. And there's only 10 episodes out there, but I just came home and just like I couldn't get enough of it. It's sort
Hmm.
of really so cheesy. So many questions came to mind. It's like, why is it always a female and five men? Then I thought about the concept of having one man and five women living in his house. And then what if they did it LGBT? I kept thinking, like, imagine if they had one gay man and five gay guys, or one, and it was just, oh my God,
Right.
they've kept
Yeah.
it very clear in sort of like keeping the woman in charge. And but such a cheesy documentary, but I really liked it. And I was gutted when I got to the 10th episode. I was like, oh no, what am I going to watch now? And so, yeah, that was something. If anyone has got all four, wants bingeable, sit back, have a laugh, see people's decisions based on, what people behave like in other people's houses. So it got that little bit of love at first sight sort of element to it as well. So,
Okay. Cool.
yeah.
I mean, it sounds like an interesting, different idea for like essentially a dating show, I suppose.
Yeah.
Although it's like a multi-dating sort of show. I'd heard of it. I know what it is and stuff. I probably would never watch something like that. It's just not the kind of thing I would watch necessarily. I think the last reality TV thing that I watched, because I don't think I've mentioned this anywhere ever before. I did used to watch Made in Chelsea until, um, and I quit watching that 3 years ago, maybe longer. I was actually going to do a whole podcast on that, on like why I quit watching and just why I'll probably never go back to reality TV. It's a whole thing. Sort of had this in the moment realization of like, why have I got this on? And then just switched off and never went back. So yeah.
I'm not a huge. I watch here and there. Things really have to sort of make me interested. Like, another friend wanted me to watch Don't Tell the Bride or Married at First Sight. Those things don't appeal to me. But if it's something that just has a little bit of a
Hmm.
twist on the idea, that I kind of like that. I kind of like someone trying to find a new way of doing it. And I imagine if it went on for series after series, it'd get to about series 8, and I would have switched off by then, because I'm like, yeah, it's a tired format.
Yeah.
You don't need
Yeah.
to keep repeating it.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's my second program that I wanted to talk about.
Cool. But yeah, with Made in Chelsea, it was a point of like, okay, I'm watching people shout and argue with each other, and why am I doing that? And I'm going to switch it off.
Yeah.
So a lot differently with something like is it called Five Guys a Week? You said,
Yeah, Five Guys
because
Away.
that's more of like an actual dating game show kind of thing. That's a lot
Yeah.
different to like a Made in Chelsea, where you're watching people just shout at each other. So
Oh, and
um,
it's also cheesy, isn't it? The scripted element of Made in Chelsea and the
yeah,
only ways I see it. 'Cause, like, I
yeah.
remember watching clips of. I've never been a watcher of those, and just
Hmm.
thinking, oh my God.
Yeah, but
Uh,
yeah, glad I got away from that. But anyway, what's the next one you want to talk
The
about?
next one, I'm going to go procedural for my next one.
Mm.
This is my penultimate one before I do my final one. The procedural is just, I really want to say how much I enjoyed FBI. And it just ran for its second season. The second season ended last week on Now TV. And I had picked it up during lockdown. The first lockdown, I thought, oh, I'll give this a go. I do like a procedure every now and then. As you know, huge fan of 911. I was
Hmm.
looking for something to fill my 911 void. I've got 911 Lone Star, but I knew that was coming to an end as well. So
How
I've
many
got,
how many more episodes has that got?
I think it's got one or maybe two.
It's,
I,
it's,
I'm
it's near the
literally
end,
watching
isn't
it
it?
weekly, yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty certain it was a short run. I remember reading about it. It was a shortened run. They had to stop due to coronavirus, and
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sort of getting to that point where I think, yeah, we've got a couple of episodes left. But yeah, FBI. I'm not sure if you've watched it, Matt. It's very procedural, classic. You see a crime in the first bit before the titles. Then you bring in the team and they go and solve it, and then at the end they have that sort of moment where they reflect on the crime and it matches one part of their life or something, and it's just good classic procedural work, and it all matches into the Chicago franchise. Apparently, in the wider world, they would all sort of map into one another.
Hmm.
Um,
See,
so
I'm
uh,
I'm curious to actually check out that because I love like crossovers and connected universes and all that sort of stuff. I don't think that there's actually quite enough of it in TV, unless I've just not found enough of it. But I'm quite interested in like all the because they all cross over and stuff, don't they? Like the Chicago
yeah,
shows and that. But I don't actually know which one I'm supposed to start with, and then like when I'm supposed to introduce the other ones. So
yeah.
I don't know, but I'm intrigued to look into that. So FBI ties into all of those.
So it wasn't originally, so it's all made by the same production crew. So what he does is he creates a first series, and
Mhm.
if that series is good, then by series two it becomes sort of, it will find a way. So I watch Chicago Fire and Chicago Med. I've never been a fan of Chicago PD. I never really got into it. So when they do their crossovers, I always get really confused when the Chicago PD people come in, because I'm like, who are these? And then FBI already has a spin-off called FBI Most Wanted. And they're already starting to do crossover episodes. And then in the very last episode of FBI in season two, it got cut short. They were 3 episodes short because of Corona. They brought in one character from Chicago PD. And I read about it afterwards that the idea was there was supposed to be a few episodes that had this sort of crossover of a character to lead in the future to maybe potentially bigger crossovers with FBI and the Chicago series. You got to remember, FBI are actually based. I think they're based in Washington or New York. They're not based in Chicago. So this character
Oh.
arrives and they're like, "Oh, here she is from Chicago," and you're like, "Well, I know her. She's from one of the Chicago franchises." So I'm not sure how many crossovers, but I think they're trying to have more of this, like you said, this universe idea that these exist within the same sort of universe and how they can potentially interact and move around those universes. And that's actually quite a good idea if they're thinking about that. And it's got a really strong cast as well. That's the other thing I like. It's got some really good actors that you believe in and want to follow. So yeah,
Hmm.
I really enjoyed that. And yeah, if you start watching it, Matt, then do look out for FBI Most Wanted,
Okay.
and you get the spin-off. The episode that is the spin-off then would launch you to watch series one of FBI Most Wanted. Um,
Cool.
and so
Yeah.
yeah, it's all out there.
Hmm. Yeah, because I remember back in, I think it was because one of the only ones I can think of that's actually a universe that I watch is the Arrowverse shows, obviously, that have like
Mm.
big crossovers and that. because the other show that I do watch that hasn't yet crossed over is 911 and 911 Lone Star. There was like a reference last week to one of the characters in the main show, but there wasn't any sort of crossover or anything. And I could tell that like if you probably didn't watch 911, the reference would kind of just go over your head a little bit and not really. It was a cool little Easter egg and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm interested to maybe try and start those at some point, the Chicago shows
Yeah.
and that. I know that there's going to be an awful lot of me to
Oh yeah.
watch that. So sometimes it's a bit overwhelming, isn't it? When you look at a certain show, it's like 22 episodes and we've got 5 or 7 seasons. Like whoa,
Yeah.
well, that's it's like when everyone says, "Oh, Matt, you should really go and watch Supernatural," and I'm like, "There's 15 seasons and they have like 23 episodes." It's
You'll
like,
be there forever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Same with what was the other show? Some people have recommended like Smallville and stuff, which it's still got like 10 seasons and 23 episodes. So, yeah, which I know both of them have pretty much finished, or Smallville finished ages ago. Supernatural's finished recently in the US, but it's like, yeah, I'd love to do something like that. It's just whenever I look at the list of Supernatural episodes, I'm like, no, I'm not doing this now. I'm gonna watch something that's shorter. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that more. I mean, I get it. It's a risk, like when you launch any new show, really, it's always a risk, depending on situation. But then, like, if you launch that and then you can maybe like introduce a character, do a backdoor pilot, put that character into a new spin-off, or just launch a new spin-off based on that. I really like those ideas. I don't know if it is just me, but there does seem to be a lack of like actual TV crossovers and stuff. Because apart from the really obvious ones, I can't think of many others that actually do that. So
It's quite expensive as well, I
it
think,
is, yeah,
to try
yeah.
and align the filming schedules to make
Mhm.
sure it works and that. I can imagine it probably closes down the creation of both episodes for what 7 to 10 days. I'm not sure
A couple
exactly
of
how
weeks or
long.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, to film that one, and I can imagine it's a lot of effort. But if you
Mhm.
do it well, then it's gonna, really hit home and be enjoyed. So
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
because I always hear about with the Arrowverse crossovers how they're like that's like a really grueling long process for everyone involved. But then you've got like I don't know 20 characters or something. Because then you've got like what 5 shows that cross over or something. So
Yeah, that
yeah,
last one is huge. I remember watching that
massive. Mm.
over 5 days, wasn't it? You just got to imagine what they go through with that.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. What show do you want to talk about next?
yeah, my final show I'm going to talk about 3 episodes in. It's the big HBO drama that's just come to Now TV with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant. It's The Undoing.
Oh, yes, I'm
Um,
watching that.
yeah, so I'm 3 episodes in. I think I sat down on Monday night and started watching it, and sort of did 2 episodes in one night and then an episode last night, and I'm like, I'm going to do another one tonight because I think the last episode's just come out, so I could potentially get to
Yeah.
the end by the end this week.
Episode 5 was this week. I saw a promo thing released on YouTube. Episode 6, I think, is the last one. So that'll be next week.
Brilliant. So
I
yeah, definitely.
I thought it might be 8 episodes because that's a pretty just normal length for TV. But
Yeah.
I think the sixth one is the last. Yeah. Do you like it so far?
You know what? I do. I really liked Big Little Lies, but I was
Me
very
too.
late to that party, and I always took so long to get there. And so with this one, I didn't want to do the same thing, and so I was like, I'm actually going to get on watch it while it's still in its like airing stage, and I'm really enthralled. There are little niggly bits that annoy me, and Nicole Kidman is a fantastic actress, but she does have this way of playing the uninformed woman who seems a little bit lost. I've seen her in Big Little Lies with that character, and now she's
Hmm.
here with this character, and it's I'd love her to play a really strong, empowered woman that we see in other actresses. But she does it well. Hugh Grant in his first role. Sometimes I'm struggling to get past his sort of comedy bit, maybe in episode one. But
What
obviously,
comedy bit?
so his comedy patter that he has in his films that we know him for,
Uh-huh.
the lovable rogue, the foppish, like handsome man. And so there's a little bit you have to get past that because you don't see him in these sort of roles. He's very much he plays well in the comedy role. I don't see him as a dark actor very often. And so
Yeah.
to see him here was really good. That the woman who plays Eleanor, like she was, I don't know, I can't explain it. She was quite mesmerizing as an actress, but also quite frustrating because it put me off a little bit. You know, she obviously is the victim. If not to give any spoilers, she's the central
Hmm.
role in terms of that. But she's a very compelling actress in terms of her features, but I wasn't really convinced by her performance. I struggled with it in those episodes. But other than that, I'm enjoying the storyline. I can't wait to see where it goes. I've obviously just finished episode 3. So he's had the fight in the prison. Oh God, try not to avoid spoilers, but there's been a fight.
Well, I
Um,
think there's spoilers which we haven't actually found out yet. Is okay, who actually murdered this woman, which we
yeah,
don't know yet. So,
and that's the
um,
premise. And he's quite openly. I've seen him in interviews. Hugh Grant saying, you know, this is the premise of the episode. You know, he is he guilty? Is what we need to sort of talk about.
yeah.
Is where the plot goes. But no,
Hmm.
I'm enjoying it. There are some bits that are slow paced, but I'll get over that. Big Little Lies has its slow paced moments, and if everything goes too fast, you can't really enjoy it as much.
Hmm. Yeah, I really like it so far as well. I haven't seen this week's episode yet. For some reason, it comes out on a Monday, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's a new episode. And then like Tuesday comes around, oh, I haven't watched it yet. And then Wednesday, and then Thursday. So I don't know what it is. I seem to watch it on like Thursday or Saturday or Friday or something. It's not because of any sort of lack of enjoyment. I don't know. I guess I'm busier early in the week or whatever it is. I mean, I've got the two Walking Dead shows that I'm watching on Sunday and Monday pretty much. So, but you know, I really like it so far. I think episode 4 was slightly weaker than the rest. I don't know, it just didn't really quite click with me as much, but I really really liked what they've set up. It sort of it sort of does make me think of like Prison Break meets Big Little Lies or something, because you've very much got like a Prison Break type of, not actually him breaking out of prison, but like it sort of reminds me of that show a little bit as well. It's so funny because they show a couple of scenes where he's in like is it the courtyard or the playground or whatever, like the basketball court thing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for the prison, and he's sitting there and this guy comes up to him and it's like, yeah, he does not fit in here at all, kind of thing. You can sort of just tell. But yeah, I think it's been quite interesting so far. I kind of realised after the third episode or maybe the fourth one that I'm obviously very aware of who Grant actually is. But I can't recall too many things I've actually seen him in. It was an interesting kind of revelation. I sort of just looking at him and I was like, yeah, I obviously know who that is, but
Mm.
I couldn't really, like on the spot, I couldn't really think of too many things I'd actually seen him in. He's just not an actor I've seen very much, I
Well,
suppose.
so this is his first TV role.
Right.
So
Yeah, I
you
know he's a
would
big
think,
film guy in that.
yeah. So
So.
this is quite publicly his big first TV role. But I think I know him from Love Actually, About Boy, For Weddings and a Funeral, Notting Hill, and then Paddington 2. He's been in those sorts of films. He was a very big
Mm,
he played the same character over and over again in the 90s. He's sort of branched out a little bit more in the latter part of his career. But yeah,
mm.
Bridget Jones's Diary as well, in those films as well.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any of those films. All the ones that you just mentioned. Yeah, like as you were listing them, I was like, nope, nope, no, so,
Not even Love
no,
Actually, the classic Christmas British film. Oh,
no,
Matt, that's got to be on your
no.
list this Christmas.
I'm not someone that actually is like, oh, it's Christmas, I must watch a Christmas film. I'm like, yeah, I'll just go and watch an episode of something on Netflix or play a game. But yeah, isn't that's the one with the cards in it with Andrew Lincoln, like that
That's the one.
famous?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one.
See,
Yeah,
I know what it is. I just haven't seen it. So
never watched it.
because he's obviously from Walking Dead, Rick Grimes. Um, so yeah, but no, I've enjoyed it so far. I'm looking forward to watching the fifth episode. I'll probably watch it tomorrow. I don't know if I'll get around to it today, but yeah, it's been quite good. It's interesting as well because I remember, you know, usually with new shows and you know new games and that sort of thing, you get sort of like the press reviews or screeners or the critic reviews, and a lot of well, I use that term lightly, critics, because I don't really understand what that term even means in 2020. Um, but a lot of them were like, "Oh, it's kind of aggressively fine," and I was like, "Okay, what does that even really mean?" Like aggressively fine, but no, I think it's quite good. What I mean by the critics thing, by the way, is like, okay, we don't live in an era where you sort of just either casually watch TV or you're a professional critic, because we got, you know, YouTubers, podcasters, bloggers, and everybody makes some sort of video or something for online these days, so the term critic just kind of, it doesn't really mean anything to me anymore. So, but yeah, it's been quite good. So I've enjoyed that, and there's only 2 episodes left. Now that I think about it, that's a pretty good length for the episodes
Yeah.
for that, because I don't know how long you can really go with, like, okay, did he do it? Did he not? How far can the investigation go? What do you think of the actual detectives so far, like the way they've approached things?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the way he sort of spoke to Nicole Kidman in the first couple of episodes.
Yeah.
But then when he sort of reveals a bit of his hand later on about why he's speaking to her like that, I'm not obviously not going to say that, because obviously that does branch off into sort of spoiler territory. I
Mhm.
now understand, but we're seeing it a lot from her point of view, so it is very frustrating. Just kind of like, would you do that? Would you be like that as a police officer? So, but I think that's part of the drama, isn't it? That you should normally, traditionally, be on the side of the police officers investigating the crime. But what they've done is they've made them that little bit dislikable,
Mm.
and therefore you're not really on their side. You're on the side of Nicole Kidman and her family to try and get to the bottom of it. And yeah, that's where I'm probably sitting with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I quite agree. So anyway, before we get into, you said that was your last one, did you?
That was my last thing. Yep. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Let's take a quick little break, go into some housekeeping, and then I'll talk about my shows in a minute. We'll see you in just a second. Hi there, and thanks very much for listening. Today I'm here to tell you about our 2 different affiliate links. The first of which is our Amazon affiliate link. That's where you can shop on Amazon. We can get a small cut of what you spend, but it won't cost you anything extra. So whether you're getting a gift for somebody else or treating yourself, or maybe both depending on the occasion, we can get a small cut of what you spend, but it won't cost you extra. You can find the link to our Amazon affiliate link in your show notes. The second affiliate link for today is our Kualu affiliate link. If you want to get started with a website and a domain name of your choice, you can simply sign up with Kualu using the link in the show notes. They also have a live chat support system that's in the bottom right hand corner as well. So if you need help with getting set up, Kualu will be able to help you with that as well. The links for both of these can be found in your show notes for Kualu and the Amazon affiliate link. If you would like to get the ad-free versions of Entertainment Talks podcast and support us along the way, you can simply sign up over on our Patreon page. You can sign up either as a creator or as a patron. There's no difference there for the time being, and you can get your ad-free podcasts over there. It's a great way to support us on Entertainment Talk and to get rid of the ads and get your ad-free podcasts. You can also support Entertainment Talk on Patreon at the $3 level tier. This gets you a chance to request a review from us of your favourite TV show or film, but it's 1 per month, so 1 TV show or film review per month. It's up to you which one you want to choose. We will watch a few episodes of the TV show that you choose, or of course if it's a film, we'll just watch that film and we will review that for you on that month. And then when it gets to the next month, you can request a new TV show or a film review of your choice. That's $3 level tier. That does also of course include your ad-free podcasts for the month as well. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the rest of the show. Alright, so let's go through the housekeeping. As I said with Walking Dead, we did do our podcast for the Walking Dead World Beyond Season 1 Episode 8. There's 2 episodes left for the season. There's supposed to be a double season finale, so episodes 9 and 10 for next week. We don't completely know if that's the case, but you'll find out next week because we'll be watching the episodes. But Walking Dead World Beyond, that's still continuing, so that's been really good. Manchester United beat Istanbul 4-1 in the Champions League last night, so I did the podcast on that. Lots and lots of different talking points about different players, and just 4 goals to talk about as well, which was really, really good. Gaming talk this week, we talked about Cyberpunk 2077, the upcoming CD Projekt Red game, due out on December 10th. There shouldn't be any more delays because surely at some point press have got to be playing that game, and there should be reviews dropping at some point. We talked about censorship in different games, about adult content, and that sort of thing. And there's some features kind of tied in with that with Cyberpunk, so we talked about that as well. We also talked about Nintendo and Twitch doing copyright strikes for different people, and not all of it quite makes sense. So we talked about that as well. So if you want to listen to this week's gaming talk, also if you want to know what I think of Watch Dogs Legion, I did give my impressions for that game, the new Ubisoft Watch Dogs game, of course. So you can have a listen to that if you want to know those as well. Fear the Walking Dead is finished for its mid-season finale, season 6, episode 7. I had some particular opinions about that and how they finished the mid-season. And that will be back at some point in 2021 for the remainder of the second half of season 6. What else have we got here? Let me just quickly scroll down. 4 reasons to be excited for the upcoming Last of Us HBO TV series. I know that you and David talked about it kind of briefly and stuff on Geektown. It has been ordered to series this week from Neil Druckmann and Craig, I think it's Mazin, the guy who did Chernobyl. So I picked out 4 big reasons to be excited for the upcoming TV series. And that's pretty much everything we've been doing on entertainmenttalk.org and on podcast platforms. Alright, you don't have a clue what shows I'm going to talk about, do you? So
no, surprise me.
Yeah. So some Disney Plus things. I'm going to put one Disney Plus show at the start and then one at the end. They don't have many Disney Plus original shows, so there's not much to guess from there. High School Musical. I finished the first season of it. There's going to be the Christmas special soon. So, what kind of happened was I thought I'd just dip into the series, check it out. That was a couple of months ago. And I remember I watched it was either the first or the first 2 episodes, can't quite remember, but the first sort of early part of the season. Went on to Geektown a few months ago, said that it was quite good, got off to a quite good start. I watched episode 3, and then got a bit sort of not really bored with it. It just didn't quite click with me, and then I sort of switched it off towards the end of episode 3. I just couldn't quite finish the episode at that point, plus something kind of came up. Went back to it, went to finish it. I thought, there's only 10 minutes left. I'll see if, I'll watch the end of the episode and see if it kind of pulls me in. So then I watched the 3 episodes. And then, I think a day or 2 later, I watched the entire rest of the season back to back. So from episodes 3 to 10. Now, granted, they're Disney Plus shows, so, sometimes they're a bit longer than 30 minutes, but most of the episodes were 30 minutes, so of course it cut down the time quite a lot, so it wasn't quite like, 7 hours or whatever. Some of the episodes were a little bit longer, but yeah, I watched episode 4, really liked it. Watched episode 5, really liked it, and it just kept on going. So yeah, really, really enjoyed it. I finished it and everything. I thought it was good. It has been renewed for a second season, which I think is in the works at the moment, and it's got a Christmas special at some point. One of the interesting parts for me personally is because I did see the original High School Musical films when I was at school myself. The Zac Efron films that came out back in the 2010s or whenever that was. I didn't quite anticipate or expect to get any nostalgia from this show, because when I think of things that I'm nostalgic for, which I could sit here and list, but I'm not going to do that, I would never usually say High School Musical to you. Like if you said, Matt, like what kind of things are you nostalgic for, I'm very unlikely to list High School Musical, but because this kind of uses, I don't know if you know how the show kind of works.
I've watched it all as well. I've watched it all. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. So yeah, the way they use like the films is like they actually practice off of those. So Troy and what's the girl's name?
Gabriella.
Yeah, they use that as like canon, and then they're watching the film at certain points as well. And then yeah, they did that. I got to episode 10. They did the big like musical episode, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. I think one thing I've kind of realised about myself, especially after watching Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. Now, there's a certain way in order to attract me with using music. There's a certain way that you need to do your musicals, I suppose. Maybe I'm just more of a musical fan than I thought that I even was. Because, if you asked me 5 or 10 years ago, like, oh, have you seen many musicals or whatever? No, not really. I wouldn't usually watch those sorts of things. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just more of a musical fan than I kind of realise. Sometimes if you just implement music in an interesting way like that. Of course, with Zoe, it's completely different, because with Zoe's playlist, it's to do with like her powers and people's thoughts and that sort of stuff. So it ties in kind of differently. But yeah, I don't know. I just really, really enjoyed it. I didn't quite. Maybe it's because I didn't expect to enjoy it as much. I didn't expect the nostalgia to kind of come out like that. But it really worked quite well for me. I didn't know that you'd seen the series. So what do you think of High School
Yeah,
Musical?
I mean, I did it a little bit of a nostalgia. I think I got onto a bit of a movie binging watch on Disney Plus and ended up watching High School Musical. And I was
Okay.
like, oh, I've heard they've done a spin-off. I'm going to try and watch that. And you know what? I was pleasantly surprised. I thought I'd go into it thinking, oh, it's too cheesy. I'm too old for it. But
Yeah.
do you know, I really like their style of it had a bit of a Modern Family feel to it. Do you understand? Like the whole speaking to the camera breakout elements
Yeah,
before
yeah, I
going
like that.
into.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that
It's
as a
not like
really,
fourth wall breaking, it's sort of like documentary
yeah,
almost type
it's
of
a really
style.
modern way of the telling us the story.
Mm.
So I think I really that's what drew me into it. I
Hmm.
found myself binging it over 3 or 4 days. And really, really, really enjoyed it. And yeah, I didn't know there was a Christmas one. You surprised me there to tell me there's a Christmas one coming.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
quite
know the
excited.
date of it, but
So.
yeah, it's going to be coming out soon. But yeah, I enjoyed it quite a lot, and it just don't know, it surprised me a lot, which I think is quite a good thing. And yeah, there is those teenage cheesy sort of moments. And I'll admit sometimes I can be a bit of a sucker for that, and you have to do it right. You have to do it in the right way. You can't do it like completely cringy or whatever. I'm looking at you, Riverdale, and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. That's not how you do a teenage drama. That's how you completely butcher one. But yeah, it doesn't go to that sort of quality. I quite enjoyed it. Now, is it like a phenomenal, groundbreaking series? No, I wouldn't say it's something like that. It's something that you can have fun with, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
they've got some fun characters there that you can kind of get attached to and that sort of thing. And yeah, I really like the music for it as well. So, what did you think of the 10th episode with like the big musical thing at the end?
Yeah, I thought they did it quite well. It wasn't as expected. I don't know, I don't know what I was expecting, but
Hmm.
um, I almost thought it was going to be like a scene for scene, but they still kept the drama in there and sort of like the storylines feeding through it. And no, I had no faults from it, and I almost feel like, do I want to give it another rewatch before season two,
Hmm.
just to make sure I remember all the storylines because I watched so much stuff. I needed to keep my brain fixed onto what's actually going on. But no, I didn't have any huge problems. There was nothing like that sat with me that frustrated me. So to my mind, it
Yeah.
must have been a good little show.
Hmm. Yeah. The next thing that I watched is Emily in Paris, which I'm sure you've probably heard about on Netflix. It's been quite popular. It's one of them weird things where, well, Netflix's strategy worked on me because they kept putting it in my face every time I loaded Netflix. Which, hey, if you're trying to get me to watch your most popular show, I understand. I'm not like bothered by it. It's part of their marketing and things because Netflix doesn't really advertise apart from Facebook and Twitter and stuff because they don't have adverts themselves. But I understand if you're gonna try to put your most popular show in front of me, well, it certainly worked because you got me to press play and finish the first season. Yeah, I finished the first season of Emily in Paris, and it's another show that I enjoyed far more than I thought I was going to. And again, it is kind of similar in a way to High School Musical, was the sort of cheesy kind of romantic sort of stuff in there. You kind of know that okay, these two, that there's these two people and they clearly want to be together. It's not going to happen at the moment because there's obstacles in the way, whether that's a job or a person or whatever the case, or whatever the situation. But it's still, even though it should feel predictable that like okay, these people are going to get together or whatever, when it happens, it's still fun and cool, and it's just sort of makes sense at the end. One thing I think that this show does pretty well. Now I've talked a lot recently, mostly this year, about the way that TV shows structure themselves. Essentially you've got a bunch of different scenes. They're in different places with different characters, but you've got to put it together like it's a puzzle that looks right. Now there's two different sections of this show. You've got Emily and her sort of personal life, and there's the guy that she lives in the same building with, and she accidentally knocks on his door because she thinks it's the fifth floor, but it's the fourth floor because there's a whole thing about that. Basically, she goes into her apartment building in France for the first time. She's on the ground floor, and then you go up, then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She goes to go in there for the first time and check out her apartment. And she thinks that the ground floor is the first, so she ends up going 4 floors instead of 5. Knocks on this guy's door, literally tries to like open his door with her key, and she's like, why ain't this working? And then she meets this guy. So that's pretty much how that happens. And then she bumps into him loads of times, gets loads of help off of him in like emergency situations and stuff. There's things like her shower doesn't work and other things as well. But as I was saying, one thing that the show does quite well is you get a very different kind of tone when she's either dealing with things in her personal life, which is a little bit more of the comedy angle of the show, and then you've got things like where she's working for this big French kind of media company thing or whatever, and she's like the social media manager of the company basically, because she's got this big social media kind of outreach, and they show that throughout the show how she's sort of growing, and she takes like photos of herself with different products and like different places in France or in Paris rather, and she kind of grows her work thing from there. But her boss is particularly difficult to impress. Let's just put it that way. And she has to navigate both things. But it's sort of like you get a bit of her at work. You get the next morning sort of scene. She goes to work, tries to impress her boss. That's extremely difficult. There's also these two guys that she works with, and they're like pretty funny the way that they kind of tie into the show. Because apart from those two guys that she works with, every single male character in the show hits on her. And I guess that's kind of, France is it's been called the city of love or something, isn't it, in the past. But yeah, I just like the way that you get the different scenes with her at her personal life and her friends that she meets up with and stuff. And then you get her at her work, and she's trying to impress not just her boss, but like when her boss goes to meet people and and she has to go there and impress them, and sometimes that doesn't go really well. There's also kind of a bit of a comedy angle with the work, where because she's from, where was it, California or somewhere from America, she's moved over to France. She doesn't know any French, and she tries to learn French throughout the season. She goes to like different language classes and things, and there's certain points where she goes to try to be impressive, goes to say something to a big client that she's meeting, and says the wrong thing now and again, and it ends up particularly funny. So, have you seen any of the series at all?
No, I too knew how much it was being put in our faces by the advertising on Netflix, but
Yeah.
I never really. I was going to, but something, other things came up and started watching other things. And then I started hearing reviews about it, and it's not exactly good for French culture representation, apparently. I've heard little
Okay.
clips about how it is a little bit too cliched, but yeah, I never got round to it. But it sounds like it's good fun and something to relax to as well.
Mhm.
So maybe if I have a quiet moment over the Christmas period.
Mhm. Again, it's short episodes as well. There's 10 of them. They're about 30 minutes. I think the finale is a little bit longer. So so like I said with my analyzing TV episode the other day, you don't need to have 50 plus minute episodes in order to make a good show.
No, not at
You
all.
do not need to do it. Because like with what I've said about Mandalorian, which I'm going to get on into in a bit. Some people have complained about, not just with the second season but with the first, about like, oh, the Mandalorian's really short, but it doesn't. If it gets the job done, it doesn't need to be longer, because then you get into kind of filler territory and that sort of thing. So yeah. But sometimes short episodes just work. You get short and sweet episodes, and it's good. So. But yeah, that's Emily in Paris. That's on Netflix. I guess I've surprised myself a bit because, again, if you'd asked me 5 or not necessarily 10 years ago, but 5 years ago, you'd have showed me something like High School Musical or Emily in Paris, I probably never would have tried shows like that. But hey, sometimes you try something a bit different and it surprises you, which
Too
is good.
right, too
Yeah,
right.
which is good. So, uh, this next thing, I don't necessarily want to talk about the episode of Charmed, but just this bizarre schedule that E4's come out with. I don't know if you know what they're doing with the second season. Are you aware of what
No,
they're doing?
no, I've never followed it, but yeah, what have they done?
So they've already started doing this. I've watched the season premiere. They're putting out episodes. I'm not sure if it's daily, including weekends, so it might be weekday. I guess we'll find out when we get to Saturday. They're putting the episodes out daily at 5 o'clock
But
on E4.
oh, it's like they're
Which
trying to rush through and get it out.
yeah, because you got 20. I don't know if it's 22 or 23. It's like a 20 plus episode season. It's a CW show. It's a year behind. I mean, the third season starting in January in the US because obviously there's been the delay because of COVID. But yeah, we got to October last year, which was I think when this season was supposed to come out. And then an entire year later, E4 just never set a date. There was no news for it. And then yeah, when David announced like a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, or whatever, that they had picked it up. They'd picked a date, but daily at 5 p.m. The interesting part of that is David said about whether or not they might censor some of the episodes. Now, I don't know about the actual E4 airing because I didn't watch it at 5 o'clock when it came out. I watched it later on All 4. There was scenes with blood in the episode, so I can't tell you if those scenes were the same in the 5 p.m. airing because I didn't watch it at that point. I didn't watch a recorded version either. I watched it on All 4, so it's probably a little bit different. But David said about the season 1 was rated 15, and with this second season, whether or not they'd censor it. So I don't know if they have for the 5 o'clock airings, but yeah, usually if you go to censor a TV show, you wouldn't probably get blood in the episodes, and there's 2 different scenes where there is blood. So yeah, again, that's just kind of annoyingly censoring things if they're doing it at the 5 o'clock one. But yeah, like you said, it seems like they're just trying to dump the episodes out. It's sort of like, okay, we got a month because you can squeeze the 23 episodes into just under a month. Just sort of like get it out kind of thing. I'm curious to know how that will work ratings wise for them. Like if people are actually watching it daily at 5 o'clock, because obviously we're in lockdown. Some people aren't at work and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just I mean I know that they've done things similar to that before, but 5 p.m. is just a really weird slot for it. I saw the season 2 episode 1 yesterday. It was good. It was okay to good. There's too many situations in this reboot where there's a threat to the characters, and I'm like, okay, use your powers. You're witches. Use your powers. And I must say that like 5 or 6 times during an episode. They go, oh, we're stuck. There's this door. Or, oh, there's an enemy here. And I'm like, use your powers, because that's the point of the series.
Mm.
And there's been situations before, I think in season 1, where it's like, oh, you can give up your life of being witches and not have powers and just live a normal teenage life. And it's sort of like, well, they kind of don't use their powers anyway. But it's almost kind of it almost gets a little bit comical in a way of like they get to certain parts where they're facing an enemy or something, which they do in the first episode of season 2. It's like, okay, sure, this enemy might be really, really strong, but like you're supposed to be the charmed ones, and I get it. You're younger than the original cast were, and that sort of thing, and they're still. The show makes it quite obvious at a lot of points that okay, these are the charmed ones. They're still witches, but they're young and they're learning. And it's sort of like, okay, at a certain point, you've got to try and get the characters to sort of beat that. You know what I mean? Like you've got the book of
Yeah.
spells, and you're the charmed one. You've got the white lighter there. You've got powers each. Like you need to try and do something else. So it can be frustrating, but it's still good in certain parts. So did you watch like any of the original run or any of this run or anything?
No, I haven't. I've never sort of followed Charmed. I followed some of the drama. I've read news reports about what happened in the first season with the actress who decided that she couldn't work with another actress or something like that. I remember reading a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But what I think this picks up on is like I know some of the frustrations we're having with Channel 4 and E4 and their scheduling and their choices and their holding back on programs that we all know they've got, or and it's just like, what are you doing? Tell your consumers, tell your audience what's happening, because then you just get lost and you lose a program, or a program pops up that you didn't realize had been released. And it's just they need to be serving the audience. And I know I've said this to you before, like something like ITV Hub as well. Serve your audience better. They're the ones that are going to be enjoying programs. Make them available. Tell people when they're going to be on. Don't throw them all out in one go because you've got a contract to fulfill or something. I imagine what they've been told is your license to season 2 ends by the time season 3 comes out, and they're like, oh, okay, let's just throw it out over
Mhm.
every day until the next season's ready. And they've tried things like that before. They normally do it with sitcoms. They have a sitcom license, and so they throw the episodes out every day until they're ready to launch the new season, the most up-to-date season. But it's not great for consumers who always has the time to watch an hour program every day for 28, 23 days.
Mm. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to watch it every day. I'm going to have to space them out. But tell you what, you know that you mentioned like on demand and things, these episodes are only available for 7 days as well. So it I don't know, it's so awkward. Like you've got 23 episodes, they're going out daily. Again, I don't know about the weekends. They're going out pretty much daily, and then you've got 7 days. If it was 30 days to watch them, okay, you've given like a lot more time. But again, that could be to rights or contracts or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I've gotten kind of frustrated lately with just UK TV in general and like the massive amount of lack of um pickups of certain shows like the HBO Max thing that's going on. Like yeah, Raised by Wolves has got a UK home now, but like no one's making deals with them. You've got I think it's Animaniacs that just came back on Hulu. Like
Yeah,
from I can't remember what year that was from, but that's just come back for revival. No one's got that. There's the Kaylee Koku flight attendant show
yeah,
that's been circling for years, and it's about to come out now. No one's picked that up. You've got another CW show that's about to start in January, the new Superman and Lois. Nobody's picked that up yet. And it's just, you know, why is like no one looking at any of these shows and just like trying to pick them up? It can get very frustrating. So
mm.
like it's actually quite good when I don't know, like when someone gets a TV show and they do have like a contract with the UK audience or broadcaster or something, and you think, okay, that's going to be picked up by that. Like if I don't know, like if Netflix or Amazon or Disney make a show, you think, okay, that's gonna end up over here because we've got
Yeah.
it. So
It's like the BBC Two and Fox one. I feel like in this year, especially during lockdown, they've been really good and clever with how they've acquisitioned those Fox properties and put them through the
do
BBC.
you mean
Not
the FX still?
Yeah, the FX deal.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't expect them, would we? Some of the things that they've come up with, like Love Life and Aquafina is Nora from Queens, and they're really good programs they're putting on BBC. And you're like, oh, I would normally go to Netflix and Amazon for things like this, but well done to that commissioner who sort of harnessed that FX deal and sort of bring good content your way. And it's
Mhm.
they need to have better contracts, you know. And
Mhm.
I know I've heard you talk about is it Lower Decks before as well,
Yeah.
like
Still not
that.
got a UK home.
God,
The season's
enough.
finished
Yeah.
like ages ago. I mean,
Sort
I
out
mean, we're into the
relationship.
over halfway through Discovery season 3 now, so yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I'm really surprised that HBO Max was circling for so long, and no one got in there and made an overall deal. And then Sky renewed their deal with HBO and didn't. I don't know what we don't know how the negotiations went, but I would have thought if you're going to go and try and renew that deal with HBO and you know that HBO Max is coming out and they're going to be picking up shows, which they're doing all the time, HBO Max is commissioning shows. I'm just surprised that no one's gone in there and got them. So, yeah. But anyway, a couple of other things. Yeah, the last thing I've got is Mandalorian. Don't want to get too far into what's kind of been going on with that, but that's been really really good. Mandalorian's such a good series. Yeah, it's just a lot of strong stuff they've done with the characters this season, how they've kind of set up basically the second half now, because we're 4 episodes in, we got the fifth episode on Friday. It's a great fun series. It's sort of, part of it kind of feels like watching a character do like video game type of quests. Like you've got this main sort of enemy that you need to go for, and then you get kind of sidetracked a little bit, and then you get somebody else to kind of help you and that sort of thing, and then you kind of take down the main enemy and stuff. Baby Yoda's brilliant. They did some really really funny and cool stuff with him in the last episode. The action's been really great. Production value's just really good, and yeah, just wanted to kind of bring up Mandalorian. Say it's been brilliant this season. I think with Robert, I'm still planning on doing a season 2 review once the season's finished. I don't know if you're much of a Star Wars or a Mandalorian person.
Unfortunately, no, I'm
No?
not.
Ah,
No.
okay. So yeah, but yeah, that's still continuing on Disney Plus. That's got 4 episodes left, and I just wanted to say that I really, really enjoyed it. So, but I can't really talk too much about a lot of the plot stuff because there is some spoilery things in there that's going on. But yeah, they're doing some very interesting stuff with the characters this season. A little bit more expansive with some of the characters than what they did in the first season. And I understand, with the first season you got to set up like the actual Mandalorian himself and the child, which is what Baby Yoda's called. So like some people call him the child, some people call him Baby Yoda. He's basically Baby Yoda. So they're to kind of establish those two, and now with the second season, they've kind of pushed some more characters into the limelight, and doesn't feel like overstuffed with characters, or is structured really really well. And it's just really good fun. It's just really good Star Wars. So, and in the last episode, they had this sort of not space battle. These ships were fighting each other basically, and that was really really good. There was like a chase sequence that was really good, and stormtroopers who continue to not be able to hit anything. I'm sure you're familiar with that, aren't you? Like
Yeah,
stormtroopers like just can't hit the target quite often. And
yeah.
that was that continues to be a running kind of theme in Star Wars. So yeah, it's been really good. We'll come back possibly by the end of the season and talk about it in full. So that is that. That's everything we've got. Enjoyed the episode. Thank you very much for joining me today, Gray.
Thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Cool. So in the meantime, if you want to check out the rest of our coverage, if you do want to check out those analysing television episodes, the ones I did recently, one was talking about the Disney Plus's weird reboot strategy. There's a lot of reboots planned for Disney Plus, and the other one, the fourth episode, which I kind of referenced a minute ago, talking about season and episode lengths, what works with what, and how differently streaming services do it as opposed to networks and stuff. So it talks about all of that as well. But you can find everything that we do on entertainmenttalk.org, TV, video games, films, and Manchester United podcasts as well. If you like what you've heard today and you want to get involved and support it, that will be brilliant. There's a few different options for you. Patreon, there's the $1 and $3 level tiers. Those are for ad-free podcast and review options. Word of mouth, you can simply tell people that you know about the website and the iTunes feeds. Just tell them and they can discover the content for themselves. Social media, mainly Facebook and Twitter, although there's all different things these days, but whatever you're using, please feel free to use those and tell people that you know about the content. TV and film news, speaking of course, what we've been here to talk about for the last hour or so. TV and film news, if you do want to check out those Geektown Radio episodes, that would be great. You can find those on geektown.co.uk, or if you search for Geektown on podcast services. Gray was on this week's episode, which was from yesterday, so go and have a listen to that for your TV and film news. And of course I'm on there sometimes, Bex is, and some other people as well, so go and check that out as well. And just sort of throughout the week, TV and film news on geektown.co.uk. Over on the Twitch side of things, Bex is streaming daily over on Twitch. If you search for Trista Bytes, Trista Bytes, search for her over there, follow her, and check out everything that she's doing. I stream on Twitch as well, not quite as often as Bex, but every now and again. Been doing it a lot more lately than what I have done before, but if you search for eTalk UK on Twitch, streaming some football stuff, Walking Dead, Watch Dogs, a bit of that, and some other games as well in the future, so you can follow me on there. And look out for Let's Play Sunday episodes as well. Thank you all very much for listening. Thanks, Gray, for joining me today, and we shall be back at some point soon to talk about TV again. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.